We begin tonight with alarming new medical evidence about the dangers of fluoride in our drinking water. For years, it's been used coming out of our taps to fight tooth decay. Our own health officials claim it's worked so well that they're soon going to add it to Mount Gambier's water supply from the Blue Lake, and they also want to see it in bottled water. But as Frank Pangello reports, more than 1,000 scientists and medical professionals from across the world have banded together to warn us that even in its most diluted form, fluoride is still a poison and can harm your health.
This is one pollutant that we capture in the phosphate fertilizer industry, and having captured it, we can't dump it into the sea, but we put it into our own drinking water. It's extraordinary.
Fluoride in our water supply is a very real and ever-present risk to our population at large.
A radical view that's made Adelaide dentist Dr. Andrew Harms a renegade among his colleagues and the professional body he once headed in South Australia.
The ADA and other dental professional groups will not speak to anybody from the anti-fluoridation side, but I've been asked to not refer to myself as a past president of the Dental Association of South Australia. In fact, I'm no longer a member of the Dental Association over this issue.
Dr. Harms has joined the growing movement of public discontent about adding fluoride, a potent poison in its most concentrated form, to our drinking water.
The chemical fluoride itself is dangerous, but also I'm concerned about the arsenic levels and the lead levels as a result of these chemicals being dumped in the water supply.
Lead levels?
Yes, there's recent evidence from North Carolina University that the fluoridated chemicals, the group of chemicals, the FSAs, leach lead into the water supply, particularly if water's standing in old leaded pipes and around leaded brass fittings.
The substance they're taking in is a Schedule 7 poison. It does contain arsenic. So the question is it legitimate to be adding such a high-level poison to our water supply?
Several rural communities across Australia are now trying to resist the introduction of fluoride into their water supply, including Mount Gambier, where it's soon going to be added to the famous Blue Lake supply, much to the disgust of locals like Alex Young, who want the issue put to a vote.
The government in all this campaign is going to rely on what's called the silent majority, and out of the 150 people that came last night, I noticed 2 people signed yes, they want fluoride. And to those 2 people I say thank you very much, because you have the balls to come and not be ashamed of your view.
There are more political and commercial interferences than there are true science. And I think our health authorities have been sitting on their hands and not really doing their job to protect the public.
The real culprit here is these bureaucrats who are spinning the information before it gets to the decision makers, and that's what's outrageous. We expect, I think, politicians to spin, but we shouldn't expect civil servants to spin.
Fluoride's been added to our drinking water since the 1960s. The pro-fluoride lobby say it's been effective in reducing tooth decay, but overseas, alarm bells have been ringing about the health risks, some from credible scientific sources like Emeritus Professor Paul Connett.
So here we got 1,100 scientists saying, we've read the scientific literature, we say there's a problem. And now what we should get from the other side is a very careful consideration of these reports and a scientific explanation. But we don't get that. All we get is a continuation of this propaganda, this simplistic PR. It's safe and effective, safe and effective, safe and effective. If they repeat it enough times with a white coat on it, everybody's supposed to believe them.
In the US, worried health officials have even issued warnings about mixing baby formula with fluoridated tap water, but not here. And there's also concern about advice given by dentists that it's okay for kids to swallow toothpaste containing fluoride.
For young children, recommending that they swallow their toothpaste is very, very poor advice. And dentists don't have it on their radar at the moment. I don't think they're taught the health dangers of fluoride. Fluoride's a very toxic chemical in its own right.
Carmel Stringer is one of about 200,000 Australians who suffer serious allergic reactions to fluoridated water.
In some people it could be fatal. If I'd continued, it could have killed me.
She uses a reverse osmosis filter to remove the fluoride.
Symptoms went almost immediately.
It's a most unusual way to deliver medicine, to use the public water supply. Think about it. You can't control the dose that people are getting. You're forcing it on people that don't want it. You're giving it to everybody, whether they're very young, very old.
Andrew Harms says Australians should also be wary of calls to add fluoride to bottled water.
The issue is not so much the concentration of fluoride in the water, it's the dosage. So if people are drinking a lot of water, very quickly at 1 part per million, you can go over the established safety limits and be in high dosage areas. And therefore we can get these side effects. And there's good studies to say that the decay rates in the community will not change by putting fluoride in bottled water.
The Australian Dental Association told us it didn't want to get into a public debate with the opponents of fluoride, but maintained it was safe and its efficacy was confirmed in numerous studies, claiming there was no scientific proof it's harmful. But Dr. Connett strongly challenges that.
The only argument about this is whether we have an adequate margin of safety to protect people, all the people drinking fluoridated water at 1 part per million. And I would stake my scientific career on the fact that there is no adequate margin of safety.
This was what Jason Armfield from the Australian Research Centre for Population Oral Health told us 3 years ago.
Alzheimer's, birth defects, crime rates, you name it, there have been links brought up to it, but there's no proven scientific evidence for any of these links.
In Australia, your health authorities, in any state or the federal health authorities, have never done health studies on fluoride, only on teeth, none of the other tissues. And so they're flying blind.
In the meantime, Dr. Harms vows he isn't going to be silenced.
I will continue to speak out, and the more this issue is covered up and swept under the carpet, the more I will speak out. My goal is to stop water fluoridation.